Having to watch my husband go into surgery was the hardest thing I ever had to do. To watch him go behind those doors and not be able to be right next to him.
The Ross procedure is a highly technical operation and a very small margin for error in this operation.
It's a lot to take on. It's a challenge, knowing that your soon-to-be spouse is going to have open heart surgery.
All right. I'm Andy, and this is my heart journey. It all pretty much began in middle school. You know, you start doing echocardiograms, and they did a stress test, which you're run on a treadmill and they're monitoring you. You know, you start getting old enough to realize things are happening, and I ended up not playing sports because I was scared of what might happen. You know, would something physically, if I fell wrong or got hit hard, or I had that fear. And I couldn't really talk to anybody about it because I didn't know anybody that had the same disease as I did.
Andy was born with a bicuspid aortic valve, so two of his aortic valve leaflets were fused, and that rendered the valve very calcified, and it wasn't opening properly. We call that aortic stenosis. And on top of that, he also had a dilated ascending aorta, which is very common in folks with bicuspid aortic valves.
Get into my early 20s, at this point I'm having an echocardiogram every 5 years or so. Just worrying in the back of my mind, is something going to happen? How long is this valve going to last before I need surgery? At that point in time, it could have been 5 years, it could have been 10, 20 years.
Andy told me about his condition when we started dating, and that he would have to have heart surgery at some point in his life. I told him it doesn't matter, I would be by his side no matter what.
Probably in my late 20s is when I first started to notice maybe some symptoms that were related to the heart. I couldn't figure out what it was, so for the next few months I was trying to self-diagnose it. Was it something I was eating? Was it the beer I was drinking? Me and my wife were outside, and I started feeling this weird sensation. I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna pass out. So I'd go to take a step and I would get off balance, and my arms and legs felt like noodles. After that, we decided that we should probably go to the emergency room. The only thing they really found was I was mildly dehydrated. So because of that, I feel like it was related to my heart. They couldn't tell me that necessarily, but I think in my mind it was. So after that, I completely cut off any drinking. I didn't have any beer or alcohol. I completely cut off caffeine. In my early 30s, we started doing my echocardiograms annually.
We went and saw his cardiologist, and he said, okay, it's definitely worse. We're gonna have to look at doing surgery 1 to 5 years.
I think around 31, we start talking about options.
There's several options that we can do. The more conventional options would be a prosthetic aortic valve replacement. So we just cut out the damaged aortic valve and put in either a mechanical valve, usually in our younger patients, or what's called a bioprosthetic valve. And they both have some positives and some drawbacks. A mechanical valve requires blood thinners for the rest of your life. And the bioprosthetic valves don't require blood thinners, but they wear out.
At this point, I'm like, you know what, mechanical is the best option. One and done surgery, I gotta be on blood thinners, okay. So I started doing a bunch of research and on the mechanical valve and the on-X valve. I think I had talked to my boss at my former job. He's like, man, there's gotta be another option. Can they take somebody else's aortic valve and put it in the place of yours? Is that possible? Which I kept on researching more and trying to find more options. Well, eventually I stumbled upon the Ross procedure.
One of the final options would be what's called a Ross procedure, where We actually take a healthy valve from the patient's right side of the heart, called the pulmonary valve, and actually move it over into the aortic position, and then take a donor pulmonary valve and reconstruct the right side of the heart.
And then after that research, I said, hey, is there anybody near me that performs this, right? Let's check on the West Coast and see what options we have. Well, I think I stumbled upon him on YouTube, actually. His name's Christopher Burke. He works at UW, and he does the Ross.
When I met Andy, he had been going through this for years. He was having symptoms, and his heart was starting to struggle, to keep up with the valve dysfunction.
Before talking about the Ross, he's talking like, what do you want out of this heart surgery? What do you want out of whatever valve you choose? So, and for me, it was, I wanted my quality of life. I didn't want blood thinners, and having to watch my diet so strict. I said, all right, well, let's get to business here. What are we looking at? You've seen my charts, my echoes, and everything, and my anatomy. Am I a candidate for the Ross?
Andy was a beautiful candidate for it. Otherwise healthy, fit, in good shape, and had excellent function of that valve.
And I think this was during COVID, so we all had masks on, right? And I had the biggest smile on my face, and I don't even think anyone could see it, but I just had this huge weight lifted off of my shoulders, because it's almost like I was waiting my whole life to hear those words.
It was very apparent early on that Andy was extremely engaged with what was going on, and he wanted to be an advocate, and he felt very serious and passionate about not only his own journey in getting healthier, but also to help others.
At this point in time, I'm on HeartValveSurgery.com. Adam Pick is the creator, and he actually had the Ross himself. I'm connecting with people, putting posts out there, and replying to people that are asking questions, and just trying to receive support, but give support as well, because I've lived my whole life with this. And this is when I met Tim on HeartValveSurgery.com. Tim lives on the East Coast. He was actually due to have the Ross, I think 2 months, almost exactly 2 months ahead of me. He was a big help for me, and we connected, and he answered a lot of questions, and I was able to see what he went through when he was at the hospital.
Having someone who's personally been on the other side, that can share their journey, the good, the bad, and the ugly, is such a gift to those patients.
This is when I knew I was born for this. I was born for it. Like, this is, you just have that feeling, and all those years of worrying and stress and thinking I'm different than everyone else, which, I mean, you are, right? Mentally and emotionally, you're different. You might be, normal on the outside, but the thoughts that go on for all these years are, you can't explain it to anybody. You just kind of live with it. So at this point, I think we're coming right up on surgery. I got sleep that night. I didn't have any issues sleeping, and we woke up early, because usually these surgeries start early. You got to be at the hospital early. Took my shower with the weird soap that they give you, and then we headed to the hospital.
It's hard to prepare for something like that mentally, but having strength in each other, and just being able to lean on each other, and have him be able to know that I'm going to be right there, was important to me.
We were in the waiting room for maybe 20 minutes and just kind of hanging out, and me and my wife didn't really say much, and then they called my name, gave my wife a kiss, and said, hey, I'll see you in a few hours. Walk in the prep room, I guess is what they would call it, and their anesthesiologist came in and talked to me and kind of told me what was going to happen, and then was pretty much sitting there waiting. Next thing I remember is I am in a room, and there's a bunch of nurses around me and people looking at me, and I have a tube coming out of my throat, and I feel like absolute crap, and I'm groggy. Well, surgery was over.
The doctor called and he said, Andy's through surgery. Everything went great. He's in recovery right now, and the surgery went better than expected.
It was pretty spotty memory for maybe the next 12 hours or so, you know, because you're on all these on meds, but coming off meds, right? They want to keep your blood pressure low, right, with the new valves in there. And getting up from the bed was, you know, I'd get lightheaded and then it was just tough because, you know, I just had my chest ripped open, right? They got me a walker, you know, so I get up and I could hold on to something. And then they also had, you know, nurses walking with me, kind of hold my arms and stuff too. So I didn't have any appetite, like almost none. The only thing I would eat was Jell-O, and it was the cherry Jell-O, and it was the most amazing thing I've ever eaten in my entire life. I had like 4 of those a day. The nurses are still coming in every few hours. They're giving me meds. They're poking me diuretics, and the sleep is absolutely terrible. You know, people coming in, checking on you. And my wife and my daughter were able to come in, and I think my mom came in too, which was a nice relief emotionally. You know, after a few days, you get kind of pent up in there. I started getting really homesick, I guess is the easy way to put it. You know, I was in there most of the time. I was in there by myself, or you know, a nurse here and there. I started getting pretty emotional by day 5. You know, I wanted to be home. I wanted to be comfortable. I wanted to see my family.
He wanted out of that hospital so bad, and he did everything he could to be able to get out of that hospital.
So I was talking to the head nurse gal, and I said, hey, I want to go home. What do I got to do? Tell me what I got to do. So we made a checklist. Basically, it was 5 or 6 things. Started checking the items off, and we, you know, she knew she could tell I wanted to go home.
I've never seen him push so hard to do something like that. He pushed himself to be able to walk. He pushed himself to be able to climb those stairs.
I think that was day 6. I think I went home day 7. I was able to get out of there. My wife came and picked me up, and I remember the bumps in the road. It could have been a tiny little pothole or something. I felt it. I could just feel it. I was so sensitive. I remember you have a seatbelt going across your chest that just got completely ripped open, right? So that was kind of weird. Finally get home, and I was so tired. I went right to bed. I got as comfortable as I could and took a nap.
There was, you know, the great support of Andy's family and his parents being there right when we got there. And then my parents came in for another week or so to help out with whatever we needed.
You know, I had a 6-week sternal precaution that I was under, and it was really strict. I couldn't, you know, you can't lift more than 5 pounds per arm. You can't put your hands behind your back, things like that. So just kind of getting acclimated to the first few weeks after surgery, you know, at home. I don't think I didn't go back to work till about 12 weeks is when I went back, so.
He went back only part-time, and that was very difficult for him. He would come home super tired and just drained from energy.
After the 12 weeks is when I had some bumps in the road. I had some palpitations or PVCs and PACs is what they call it. It feels like an irregular heartbeat, or you can almost feel like a thump in your chest every time it does it. So,
getting your chest cut open, it's your bones that are coming apart, and you're having to have that rebuilt. And it takes a lot longer than what people think. I don't know if he could have recovered as fast without having the support of our family and friends.
Even after 6, 8, 10 weeks, there'd be a lot of times where I'd go to stand up from sitting and I'd get super lightheaded, tunnel vision. Another thing that I experienced along, I think, with taking the meds was some brain fog.
The challenges just don't stop right after being healed. So to say that you're going to recover in 3 months for this is never the case. It takes a good year to recover, if not more. So that's something that I want everybody to know, that it's important to be supportive no matter what, and if they're having a hard time, give them a break. And just remember that there's more to it than what you even see.
life's, it's a blessing, being able to get a second chance. And I've talked to a lot of people on Facebook or HeartValveSurgery.com, connecting with people. And I think the hardest thing for me was finding support. Any of you guys that are told that you're having to have heart surgery, you're not alone, and you feel alone, but you're not. And I'm here to tell you that there's people out there that can, support you and be there through your journey. So
we feel fortunate to have Andy part of our program, and I think our patients benefit from his passion and his desire to make a positive impact. It was so great to see him recover, get back to the things that he loves doing. And ever since then, he's been a tireless advocate for not only our program, but for folks with congenital heart disease and heart disease in general. And it's been an inspiration to watch and follow along with his journey. And I'm just honored to be a small part of it.
My passion now, I'm here to support and inspire others. I mean, that's what I want to do. What I would close with is, I did want to give a shout out to my wife, because she was a massive support for me. I mean, she's my rock. She'll drop anything she's doing to help me, or whether it was early on, helping me bathe or cooking me meals or opening a door for me. She's no questions asked, just get it done, but remaining calm at the same time. She was huge help for me, and it's been a hell of a journey. I will have to have another surgery down the line. Hopefully it's not for another at least 20, 25 years. But the story continues.
If you had one thing that you wanted to say to Andy right now, what would it be?
I absolutely love you. And I couldn't live my life without you. He has been I always used to say this to him, my knight in shining armor. He has been one of my greatest supporters. And I'm so grateful to have you in my life and to be the father of our daughter and my children, your bonus kids. And I think it's there's not even words sometimes to say how I feel. And I love you so much. Yes, please.